Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this month's webinar from your friends at Foundations. I'm Paul. I'm your host for this afternoon.
The Foundations webinar.
Good to have so many of you here this afternoon on a bright, sunny Tuesday afternoon. So just quick intro on Foundations. We support local authorities and home improvement agencies across England, and we're funded by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. So we're here to help on anything DFG or HIA related. We do all sorts of events, training, workshops, webinars. But if you've got any issues, problems, think they just need to chat with somebody, then we're here to help. You can find out all the details.
Find out more at foundations.uk.com.
So that's what we've got coming up this week. Some news and views. Start with Altro, a session on dementia, then move into two generations, which is, as the name suggests, is about two generations living together. And then obviously on the hottest week of the year, we've got NEA talking about cold homes, just in preparation for when things turn a little bit colder later in the year.
The DFG Surgery. Your questions answered.
And as always, at the end, we've got the DFG Surgery. So if you've got any DFG related questions, if you put those in the Q&A box, I'll pick those up at the end of the session. So hope you're all well. I hope you've noticed I've turned down the volume on some of the jingles, because one of the feedback from last month was that every time they popped up, it scared somebody to death. So I've turned down the volume. Hopefully that's a little bit better now. One of the other bits of feedback from last month was somebody said they were a bit gimmicky. Yeah, I guess they are. But I was also thinking that probably that person hadn't been to any of our roadshows in the past. So I think this is probably a bit toned down by comparison.
Poll time. Let's see what you think.
So as usual, we've got the chat box running. So please feel free to say hello to each other in the chat box and chat away as we go through the webinar this afternoon. Thank you, John. Glad the sound's better. So as usual, today's first poll is what's your job and where are you watching us from today? So I'll launch that one for you now. So sorry, those of you watching on Facebook, obviously the poll doesn't pop up for you. So if you want to add your answer into the messages over there, that'd be great. I see lots of you are voting on what you are, or what you do, and where you are. Okay, thanks all for voting. So I've got, I think for the first time, got a majority of technical officers this time. Although certainly the highest scoring is technical officers this time, closely followed by managers and OTs. And still the majority are in the home office or the dining room. Only one person in bed this week, must be the heat. So as I mentioned last month, we've got lots of free e-training available for anybody who works for or with a home improvement agency. So here's the list of all the courses we've got available in generation game style. So GDPR awareness, right to work in the UK, asbestos awareness, coronavirus awareness, DSE assessments, health and safety, lone working, slips, trips and falls, autism awareness, challenging behaviour, dementia, disability awareness, person-centred care, safeguarding for adults and children, substance misuse awareness, complaints handling, conflict management, safer recruitment, time management, managing people, managing your digital profile. So there's lots of courses there, and I say they're all available totally free of charge for anybody working for or with a registered home improvement agency. You can now go onto the Foundation's website. If you look under training, you'll find a booking form if you want to book individual courses. But if you manage a home improvement agency and want to assign courses to your own staff and manage that process yourself, then we can give you a login to the site and you can manage all that for your own team. So again, all that is free of charge, thanks to Taylor Wimpey's donations, working with Foundation's Independent Living Trust. And yeah, if you want to sign up, then please go ahead. Lynn asked if contractors can access training. Yes, absolutely can. And if you want to drop Lydia a line at the office, Lynn, then she'll set you up and you can add whoever you want to as a HIA manager.
And now it's time for the guest.
So our first guest this week is from Altro. And
Hi.
welcome, Esther. Hi, Esther.
Hi.
So talking about designing for dementia. So I will hand over control to you and take it away.
Hello to all the people that I've met before, and it's great to see everybody, although I can't see you. Just to introduce myself, my name is Esther Bond. I work for Altro. I've been there for 6 years now, and I work for the housing team, so looking after sort of OTs, technical officers, caseworkers, anything to do with social housing, DFGs, anything really to do with housing, whether that be homeless. So yeah, and just to reiterate Paul's message as well, I actually did their dementia training course this week online, just to kind of make sure that we were sort of, you know, talking the same kind of language, and it was a really useful training session. So right, I've only got 20 minutes. I'm going to start the timer because Paul will just cut me off. And yeah, I haven't got anyone with me today, so if you did want to ask me any questions, if you just put something either in the Q&A box or in the chat box, I'll look at it after my presentation and I'll try and come back to you before the end of Paul's session. So yeah, designing for dementia. Obviously I work for a flooring company and we walls as well. So our we're talking today about designing for dementia with floors and walls taken into account. Okay, so this is me, Esther Bond, housing consultant. Just a tiny bit about Altro. We were 100 years old last year, and we had a huge party in London for all our staff, and then literally 12 months later we're all in lockdown, so it's been a crazy old year. But we manufacture our products in Letchworth Garden City, and then we also manufacture our walls and resins in Lowestoft and Maiden Newton, and we have got an office in Clerkenwell in London, which you are able to go in at any time, use the facilities or look at the samples, but obviously that's closed at the moment. So just a little bit about Altro, just to say that we are a global company. 50% of our sales come from the UK, and the other 50% comes from outside of the UK. It is obviously, we've got satellite offices in places like China and Australia. So today, just to sort of talk about the learning objectives, again, like I said, this is to do with sort of the basic design principles when designing for a customer with dementia. So these are just some of the common symptoms that we're going to go through. I'm not going to read everything out to you, but if you just have a look through that, what I'm going to touch on is the visual impairments, colour and contrast, and LRV values. So common symptoms of dementia is, you know, there's all like different levels of dementia. So like you've got the early onset, or you've got somebody that is quite far along. So often situations or surroundings can be confusing and can make a customer anxious. Struggling to learn new things, another symptom. Difficulty in communicating, so not being able to find the right word. And difficult seeing your surroundings. This could include illusions, misconceptions, and hallucinations as well. And speech. And mood swings as well, and I think that's understandable. You know, people are confused or anxious and not sure where they are or where they need to be. It can make you either anxious and mood swings. So disorientation of time and place. This is just an overview of our sensory degeneration. So one of the first things to go is your hearing, then your vision and touch, taste, and then one of the last things to go is smell. So, dementia patients can be prone to visual impairments, and if you have a look at the photographs on the right hand side, this potentially could be how somebody suffering with dementia could see the world. So, you know, one of the last colours on the spectrum to go is the sort of yellows and oranges, and this typically might be what somebody can see, so it could be like blurred vision. And then obviously you've got the black spots as well, which is caused by sort of mini strokes and cause spotting on the eyes. So less ability to discriminate textures, shiny surfaces appearing wet, and I'll just show you some photographs just to see what that looks like. Pattern surfaces can cause illusions. Dark surfaces and shadows appear to look like a hole. And difficulty in identifying and describing objects. So they might know what they want to say, they might know what it looks like, but they can't actually think of the word. And also difficulty seen in 3D, so some room, depending on sort of how they're designed, can appear flat. And depth and contrast. So just to give you an example of what somebody with visual impairment may see the world, on the left hand side is how they would see it, so it'd be quite blurry. The colours are all muted and they all merge into one. And on the right hand side is perhaps how somebody who can see properly would see a room. And this is absolutely fine when you're in your own home, you know, when you can practically, you know, walk around your house sometimes in the dark with the lights on. You can get around your house quite easily. But imagine if someone sort of moved downstairs or moved into an extension or even into sort of like a care home, somebody's surroundings just don't look the same anymore. So it's really important that you kind of like understand how to design the room correctly. So we're just coming on to measuring LRV codes. I don't know if you're sitting at your desk or you've got cushions on your settee, if you just have a look at some fabric around you or the wall around you, the building standards recommends that a floor and a wall should have a 30-point difference in their colour. So what it would mean is a piece of blank white paper would have a reading of 100 and black would have a reading of 0. Now you don't actually get those readings, you never get 100 or a 0, but you kind of get like 5 or 96. What building standards are recommending that you have a 30-point colour difference between a floor and a wall. Most colour swatches, so like your vinyls, even sort of like paint colours, have an LRV code, so you will be able to tell what the difference was between those colours. What they're basically saying is don't have a cream carpet with a cream wall, because somebody who's suffering with visual impairment wouldn't be able to see the difference where the floor finishes and the wall starts. An interesting thing to do is to put your phone on camera mode and have a look at something in black and white and see if you can distinguish between two colours, because to our eyes they look like very different colours, but under that black and white camera they can look very similar. And this is just an example of some of our products, how you could put them together. So you've got a couple of our, on the bottom row, you've got a couple of our wet room products, and then on the top part of the screen, you've got our white rock products. But that could either be a paint colour or a tiled wall, but it just shows you the difference between the LRV value. Sorry, I don't know if I said it stands for light reflectance value, so how much light bounces off a particular surface. Obviously you guys can't talk back to me, but if you just have a look at this picture, just have a quick think about what could possibly be wrong with that scenario. So that shiny surface looks wet. So somebody with dementia would think, is it wet? Will I fall? And we all know that when it's icy in the winter, when you step outside and you tread precariously on the ice, don't you? You don't walk normally. You kind of almost like tiptoe across the ice. So you change your behaviour. And that's what somebody with dementia would do. They would really precariously walk across that floor. So as matte a surface as possible, we recommend. Yeah, flooring should be matte and seamless. Again, have a think about that type of flooring as well. You may see that in like kitchens. So somebody with dementia would try and pick those up, like the crisscrosses, or they might even try and scrub them off the floor because they can't really see that it is a patterned floor. They might think it's like dirt or something they've spilled. So flooring patterns should not have a heavy pattern. They should be as plain as possible. Again, no sparkly bits in the floor and no contrasting high chips. You know, kind of over the last 100 years, safety floor did have sparkly bits in, which was to give it its slip resistance, but we've really moved on from there now. And if you look at our wet room products, Aquarius and Pisces, they don't have any sparkly bits in them at all. And we also say stay away from flooring with contrasting colour chips as well, because somebody with dementia would possibly try and pick those off the floor or even try and clean them out. So in this particular room, you've got a, looks like a wooden floor that goes from the room in front of you all the way through through into the other room. We encourage you to design out your transmission strip so that if you wanted somebody to have a flow around a house, so to move frequently around the house, encourage movement, we don't expect anybody to change the flooring, so it's got a continuous flooring throughout. If there was a line across that doorway, a transition strip, somebody with dementia would stop at that line and would not move across that doorway. You could also use it to your advantage as well if you didn't want somebody to go in a particular place, perhaps in like the kitchen area or a service area. You could use the transition strip to stop them moving. Again, with this photograph here, you have got like a change in texture as well. So you've got carpet going onto tiles, but again, you've got that kind of like real change in colour as well. So where you want to encourage people to go and use the bathroom, it might discourage somebody to either walk in there or even walk out. So. Again, this picture here, this is kind of like, I think it's like a carpet that you tend to see in like hotel areas where you've got lovely, beautiful pattern carpets and sort of stripy floor coverings. But again, with somebody with dementia, they would be tempted to step over this, thus changing their behaviour, and they may fall and mind the step. Again, we always encourage people to have light coming into their rooms, but this light pattern on the floor, this could look like a hole or something that somebody would need to step round. So just be careful, kind of like, I know you can't control where the light comes into a building, but if you can sort of have blinds or they're angled at a particular angle just to stop people tripping over that. Yeah, we work really closely with the DSDC, so this is kind of like, you know, them talking about how to get the design right and how it can improve people's life experiences and increase their life expectancy. You know, we don't want people to suffer when they've got the dementia. We want to encourage them to be able to live with it and make their lives easier. And also, you know, we are kind of all like designing for dementia, but we think about like dementia care homes or when you're doing your DFGs. But actually, we believe that design principles should apply to all these settings. So anywhere public healthcare, doctors, libraries, anywhere you go really. Sometimes, you know, you go into kind of like a superstore and it's really difficult to navigate because of all the signage and it's cluttered. So it's really good to take this on board when designing for other areas. I know you guys kind of probably aren't doing this, but it's for the sort of healthcare facilities, but it's good to know about them. So just to go through some of the basic design principles. Room spaces and adjacencies, we're just going to talk about. I'll just flick through these, conscious of time. Yes, we're just going through like room space and adjacencies. So we encourage you to, even in somebody's home, to perhaps put signage or the word that means for toilet, as it shows on the screen there. I think sometimes when you've got a picture of like a lady or a man, some people, I mean, especially if you go into kind of like some modern buildings, you can't actually tell which one's the man or the lady just because it's, I don't know, it's like a stick drawing or it's a, you know, it's very abstract. So having the name or a photograph of what that particular place is really useful. Again, if you're refurbing somewhere, this is not easy to do, but we do encourage you to have the toilet in the eye line of where the bed is, because somebody may wake up in the night and realise that they need to do something, but they may not, they need that trigger to say, yes, it is the toilet that you need to go to. And again, similar LRV value to encourage that movement from the bedroom to either the corridor or the bathroom. This is just an example really of a dementia-friendly housing, but it's very open plan. From the bedrooms you can see into the kitchen and living rooms, and into the sort of, from the bedroom you can see into the shower rooms as well. So it's just to encourage that movement around the house. Access to external space as well, you know, having fresh air and having access to like nature and plants has been sort of proven to extend people's you know, lifetime. And also it's sort of more motivational to get outside. Also, if you've got access to external space, it encourages your families and your grandchildren or your children to come around, or a dog to play in the garden. So it's really good to have that access. Even when you're designing outdoor spaces, if you're putting ramps in or changing the flooring, we always recommend that you continue, like, so on the left hand side you've got brick going over kind of like a manhole cover, isn't it? If you were to just fill that in tarmac, that would look like a hole, as it does on the sort of top right hand photograph. Also, use of glazed screens as well. So if you're kind of putting kitchens in or changing the kitchen around, if you was to put solid doors on those cupboards, possibly your customer would not open those doors to see what's in there. People with dementia tend to use what they can see right in front of them. So again, if you're trying to encourage movement and space, perhaps use a glazed screen. Improve lighting, which I think as people get older anyway, you do need that improvement of lighting, so like brighter lighting. Yeah, and again, sort of using photographs, numbers, even sort of colours of somebody's door, just to kind of give them that memory that that is my front door, or that is my bedroom door. So yeah, we just talk about sensory enhancement. Like, as we get older, we lose our vision's not as good as it is when you're younger, but you do have sort of the loss of that, and having the LRV values continually the same throughout encourages movement. People with dementia have less perception of depth as well. So if you see on the top right hand picture, the darker blue carpet does look almost like it's falling away, so someone would struggle to walk along that carpet. Also, to have like a non-textured floor as well. As you get older, your feet are more sensitive, and particularly when you're suffering with dementia, your feet would feel kind of like textures and bumps underfoot. So again, when you're designing for the floor, I'll just whiz through these. So avoid bold patterns and specs with a high contrast. So more sort of subtle colours, if you like. Avoid contrasting borders. Use a matte surface as possible. So I think most of our vinyl flooring is all matte now. And slip resistance should not carry pronounced texture. So as I just said in the previous slide, your feet become more sensitive, and even sort of like the products that have got the dimples on, which we do on, somebody with dementia or an elderly person would feel that. Avoid floors with sparkly bits. I'll just let you read through that. So yeah, the key conclusion to the key design points is a familiar environment for your fixtures and fittings. I mean, you can kind of, I know we've had lots of presentations about like the invisible kind of fixtures and fittings, but even sort of changing sort of the colour of their toilet roll or the colour of their grab bars can really help people sort of move around the house freely. High levels of lighting. I'll just let you read those. Yeah, so similar floor tones to encourage movement, but equally, if you don't want somebody to step outside the front door or walk into the garage, you can use a transition strip or change the colour of flooring to stop that movement. So I'll let you read through these, but we've covered most of these. So these are the HBM design principles, and there's things on there extra like nutrition, exercise, support groups, etc. Just to come onto the walls, we would also recommend that you use as matte surface as possible. The walls are good for a couple of things really. You've got your wall protection, so if you've got somebody in a wheelchair, or if you've got kind of like we've got chairs or like a headboard, it's good for wall protection, but also really hygienic, and it can just be wiped down. So at the moment it's proving very popular with COVID. But yeah, use a matte surface as possible. If it's a glossy surface, it almost acts like a mirror. Yeah, consistent colours. Bedhead colour, I'll let you read that. I'm just conscious I've got 23 seconds left. Oh, I did well. Yeah, so that's the end of my very speeded up presentation. As I said, if you put any questions or answers in the chat box, I'll come back to you before the end of the session or the end of today. I hope you found that useful and not too speedy. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Esther. Just one quick question. So, what type of flooring do you recommend for share areas for somebody with dementia?
So we've got two products. We've got Aquarius, and do you want me to put my video on? I don't know if you can see me or not. We've got Aquarius and Pisces.
Yeah.
And we have got a product called Marine as well, but that's the one with the bumps on. That's been around quite a long time. So Aquarius we do, and Pisces. Aquarius has got a couple of colours in there that have got like a high tonal chip in there. So I'd steer clear away from that. Pisces is a more of a kind of like homely product. So a lot of people, you know, whether it be suffering with dementia or not, or even sort of people with disabilities, don't want that kind of clinical product in the house anymore. They want something more homely and sort of, more nicer colours. So yeah, there's two products that I would recommend.
So for anybody still using Marine, you'd recommend to move to Pisces?
Yeah, if they've got dementia or if they're elderly. It's also actually Marine is not suitable for a bare foot. Sorry, it's not suitable for a shod foot. So if you've got a customer going in and they've got possibly somebody else going to help them shower, the person wearing the shoes it's not suitable. Sorry, it's not suitable for shod foot. So whereas the Aquarius and Pisces is suitable for both types of footwear.
Great.
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Thank you, Esther. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just before we move on to the next part, I just wanted to have a quick chat about shower curtains, which some of you may have seen I've been tweeting or posting Facebook messages about. So I thought perhaps we'd just have a quick poll.
Poll time. Let's see what you think.
So do you have a shower curtain in your house? So no, yes, but I hate it. Yes, it kind of does the job. Or yes, yes, but I love it. So which camp are you in? So I'll share the results with you now. So what's that? 2/3 of you don't have a shower curtain, and almost everyone else kind of accepts it. And 4 people love their shower curtain. So I was kind of thinking about this because I'm getting my own bathroom refurbished. I was kind of walking around kind of bathroom showrooms, and it struck me I didn't see a single shower curtain. And I kind of wondered if this was because DFG started kind of late 80s, 1990, when shower curtains were popular. And is it because we started with them in 1990 that we've used them ever since? Because I think the only places I see shower curtains these days are DFG adaptations and travel lodges. So why do we still fit them, I guess, is the question. And as I was Googling around, looking for how many people have shower curtains, I came across this article that shower curtains have most germs in your bathroom. There's more germs on a shower curtain than there are on a toilet seat.
Nice.
So I think there's kind of a debate to be had here about how good shower curtains are and whether we should still be fitting them as part of a DFG. I know kind of Angelina and a couple of people commented that they're easy to keep clean, but they're not that easy to get down and put up again, particularly if you're disabled. And I think they do. You see so many of them that kind of get dirty and mouldy and horrible. I'm not sure they're safer than screen smokes. I've seen a lot of very safe screens that are kind of protective glass that are great. And I'm not sure that we should still be fitting shower curtains on DFGs. I'd be interested in your thoughts and opinions, but yeah, I'm not sure it's the way to go. I mean, particularly when we also did a survey that the majority of local authorities do a bath-shaped shower area, so which isn't particularly wide if you're sitting in a shower chair, which is quite tricky to say by itself. And the curtain's just attached to your arm if you're in that narrower space. So I think an interesting debate to be had going forwards. Do we just use shower curtains because that's what we started with in 1990, and are they the best solution today? So while you're chatting about shower curtains in the chat box, we'll move on to our next guest. I've just got a quick introductory video before we move on to the presentation.
I'm Sam Brandman.
And I'm Tasha Langleben, and we're the founders of 2 Generations.
We're a social enterprise that uses bespoke technology to match older people who need company and help around the house with younger, friendly, and carefully vetted housemates.
Some older people just want companionship, whilst others need more household support. Perhaps they'd like help with laundry or shopping, or someone to drive them to local activities or appointments, enabling them to reconnect with their communities.
We help by matching them with a housemate tailored to their own preferences. This can be based on hobbies and interests, lifestyle, culture, personality, or whatever is important to them.
By finding older people the right housemate, they get a friend with whom they can share their life experiences, like 91-year-old Norman, who helps his housemate with English grammar for the PhD he's completing.
The great thing about a home share is that it isn't a one-off event with a person who is only seen from time to time. It's an ongoing, meaningful relationship for both people. And it's our bespoke matching technology that ensures we create lasting relationships.
The technology is also critical for scale, because it allows us to replicate our partnerships, such as with Together Co, a charity in Brighton, with hundreds of partner organisations, to help combat isolation for tens of thousands of people across the country.
And now it's time for the guest.
So I hope Hayley's there. Hi, Hayley.
Hi, Paul.
So I will start your presentation and hand over control to you to tell us all about 2 Generations.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I don't think I've met many of you before, so thank you for listening today. So I'm Hayley, I'm the Partnerships Director at Two Generations. I'm going to work out how to do these slides. Bear with me. Paul, have you given me control of these slides?
Yeah, I have, but if it's not working, just shout and I'll move them forward.
Yeah, would you mind just moving to the next one for me?
There we go.
Thank you so much. Okay, so why are we here? So we founded Two Generations to tackle 3 key issues. The first one is we really wanted to reduce loneliness in the UK, especially amongst isolated older people. And obviously now with the pandemic, we've seen even more older people having a real difficult time with isolation. So it seems things have become even more stressful for people. Secondly, we want to prevent health deterioration due to loneliness and isolation. We know that socially connected people stay healthier for longer. So we really want to reduce some of the burden on public services like GPs and hospitals through keeping people in their homes and socially connected for longer. And thirdly, the last bullet point there is we want to help young people too. Commercial rent is extortionate, especially in certain parts of the country, and there's a housing shortage as well. So we want to provide an alternative for young people where they can live in with an older person at an affordable price. Okay, so an intro to home sharing. It's exactly what it says on the tin. So a home share is an arrangement where the householder, who's typically an older person, will have a spare bedroom in their house, and they will give that to the home sharer, a young person. It's worth mentioning it's not only older people that we help. We have some householders who are living with disabilities or neurological conditions. Esther, you've just been talking about dementia, and some of our customers have dementia as well, and they're not necessarily even that old. So yeah, we're open to lots of different kinds of people who might benefit from having the support of a live-in home sharer. Lovely, thank you. So our young home sharers are able to help out with lots of different tasks around the house, basically. Companionship is obviously a big one. But it's also things like food shopping, basic IT skills, and this has become really important since the pandemic began, because so many people don't have internet at home, or have basic internet but have never done a Zoom call before, or a FaceTime before. So this has been quite a big focus for our young live-in home sharers. Booking appointments as well. Gardening, pet sitting, some basic household chores. This isn't an exhaustive list. There's other things that they can help out with as well, but these are the ones we see time and time again. And our young people offer typically 20 hours per month with these kinds of chores. That's 5 hours a week. We can also scale that up as well. Okay, next slide, please. So I'm going to talk you briefly how our home shares kick off, how we get them underway. And on the next slide, you'll see our process. So step 1 is anyone that's interested in home share, whether it's a younger person or an older person, it's often family of the older person that are a bit worried, a bit concerned. They will get in contact with us to find out more. And I'm here today as well to invite you as well to refer people onto us. Obviously, you're on the front lines with adults living with disabilities and older people. So there are probably people that are coming to mind, even as I'm talking now, that could really benefit from this. So you can refer them onto us. And then step 2 is we visit the older person. Now, obviously, at the moment, we're trying to do everything remotely. We are having phone calls, trying to set up video calling where possible, or having socially distanced meets to make sure that everyone is safeguarded. But at stage 2 here, what we're really looking for is What's the house like? What's the environment like? What's the room like that will be occupied by the young person? And also, what are the practical needs of the older person? What kind of support do they need? What help do they need? Some softer stuff as well. Are they a night owl or an early bird? You know, how do they like to live? How do they like to spend time in their home? Because we want to make sure we get someone that's as good a match as possible for them. And then we'll move on to step 3. So we will review lots of application forms from younger home sharers. We don't struggle to get young people at all. They find us quite easily online, and they're very motivated to join our database because it's such good value for them. Step 4 is we will conduct a video interview to see if we can, well, we're basically trying to make sure that they're the right match for the older person. And we'll interview a number of candidates to make sure that we've got the right shortlist to put forward. I can see a couple of questions in the chat box, so my colleague Lisa will try to answer as many questions as she can. And you'll also find I'll probably cover some questions in the next slide. Yeah, so then step 5, we will send a short list of candidates over to the householder. We like to give them a choice where possible. If they don't like any of them, we will keep searching. But typically there's a couple that they would like to meet, and we'll go ahead and arrange a first meeting. At the moment, again, this is remote or socially distanced because we're just being very mindful of safeguarding both parties. But we're here at this first meeting to mediate and to make sure the right questions are being asked and the right discussions are being had to make sure that everyone's on the same page about what this home share could look like. You know, what are the rules of play? Are there any kind of house rules? That kind of thing. Okay, and then the next slide, please, Paul. Thank you. So step 7 is having met a couple of younger home sharer options, they can decide whether there's anyone that they want to go ahead with. We always say there's absolutely no pressure at all. It's a big decision to share your home, and it's absolutely fine to stop at stage 7. Equally, we often find that once an older person has actually met that person and had that opportunity to connect with them, it's not uncommon that they want to move quite quickly, you know, once they've built that rapport and started to build that relationship. So we would then move into step 8, which is where we carry out our safeguarding measures. So we ask for 2 references for the younger person. It could be an employer. And we also get an enhanced DBS check. We are very hot on safeguarding. One of our co-founders is a social worker, and we've ensured that we have the same levels of safeguarding as if you were getting a carer. I'll just say that again because it's quite an important point. So our safeguarding is the same as if an older person was going to be having a carer come to the house. And then step 9, the home share begins. So we have a 1-month trial. We, as 2 generations, are available to navigate any concerns that come up or any questions that come up. We can mediate any of those, and if the home share continues successfully, then it will just roll on. And we have many home shares that have rolled on for not just months but years, which is fantastic. And throughout the home share, we're available to offer continuous support. So it's not just the first month that we're available, it's throughout the home share. Okay. So on the next slide, we've got a case study for you. So this is one of our favourite matches. So Norman is 91. He was living on his own and struggling with cooking in particular, having never had to cook before. He had a keen interest in politics, and so we managed to find him George. So George also had kind of employment in politics. He works in peacekeeping, so they were able to kind of really talk and have some good conversations. He was also a good cook and happy to cook, and actually really wanted to have a kind of family home feel himself. He didn't want to kind of live alone. So, you know, we often think of old people feeling lonely, but actually it's young people as well. It's all ages, isn't it? It's not unique. So this was a wonderful match where it went above and beyond practical support, and it's a firm friendship, which is always, you know, that's always our absolute ideal, and it's lovely when it happens. All right, next one, please, Paul. So, common questions. Hopefully, I'll answer some of the questions that have popped up in the chat box. If not, please do just write them, and Lisa or myself will come back to you. So, safeguarding, very important. So, we've got our 5-stage vetting process. All our young people fill out a detailed application form. It's very long and it puts a lot of people off. And we think that's a good thing because it really helps to weed out anyone that's not absolutely serious about this option. We then have a video interview, and we like to meet everybody face to face because we're a human to human business. You know, we're a community interest company, so it really is about making sure these matches are right. They also meet the householder, so there's that opportunity to talk and discuss before anything commences or becomes formal. Then we've got the police checks, the enhanced DBS, and finally 2 references. I can see someone's asked about the age of the young person as well. So we take people over 21 years old, and that's because we need a certain level of maturity. We can't have teenagers that don't wash their dishes after themselves. So it's 21 and up. And also, you know, when we're meeting them in the first instance, we are gauging that level of maturity for ourselves as well. Hope that answers the question there. Okay, what does it cost? So the older person, the householder, the standard fee is £49 per month. So this comes to 2 generations, and it's for our matchmaking service and ongoing support. It's actually an award-winning matching service, sorry, that's a tongue twister, and we've got an award-winning technology there. We do offer financial assistance to anyone that can't afford £49 per month. In some cases we've got older people paying just £1 a month. So we ask them to pay something because we like them to recognise the value of our service, but we don't ever want to turn anyone away, so financial assistance is an option. And now our younger people, our home sharers, they will typically pay £299 a month, and that's for offering 5 hours a week of practical support. So £299 a month, I'm sure you can appreciate, is a huge saving versus private rent and commercial rent. So it really does enable people who would not otherwise be able to access certain areas of the country, certain kind of busy cities and towns. It allows them a chance to get their foot in the door, so to speak. So it's wonderful for young people, and I certainly wish I'd been aware of this in my 20s. It's too late for me. Okay, next slide, please, Paul. Thank you. So we often get asked, you know, what happens if it doesn't work out? Very fortunately, it's not common. We spend a lot of time up front making sure that this is a match that has legs and could really go the distance. If it doesn't work out, it's typically because the older person needs to go into care, or the younger person moves on, gets married, finds a new job, needs to physically move location. Occasionally, the match doesn't work. Perhaps the younger person isn't able to fulfill the certain number of hours a week, in which case we will give a notice period, and we will ask that person to leave, and we will smooth that transition by immediately finding new options for the older person to make sure that they can find someone else that can live in. Okay. So how can we work together? So it's a very simple referral method. So you simply would refer someone on to us, or you could email yourself to put us in contact and to make an introduction. It's as simple as that. It takes just a few moments. We can send you flyers if there's anyone that would like some physical flyers, and we can also send you e-flyers as well. So we've got some PDFs that we can email out. So please do just write in the chat box if you'd like to receive our either our physical flyers or our digital flyers. We'd also love to hear from you if you're able to promote our service on any of your channels, like your social media or your website. As I say, we don't struggle for young people, but the older people that really need our help are harder to reach. So we're always looking for kind of partners and friendly support on the ground. Okay, next slide, please, Paul. Yeah, so thank you so much. That's our contact details there. Feel free to screen grab that, and you've also got Lisa and myself in the chat box this afternoon. And I'll just leave you with a short video from a home sharer, and I'll just say thank you so much for listening, and I'll leave you with our lovely householder here. Do you want to just start that video, please?
I'm 95 years old, partially sighted, and I have a housemate who is 27 years old.
Hi, I'm Alexandra, I'm 27, I'm a student living in London. I moved here in September and didn't know anybody in London really.
I wanted it because I was very lonely, and because I think we all need companionship. In a way, it was quite frightening because you don't know, are you going to fall? Is something going to happen to you? Also, you're bored to tears. You are used to leading an active life, and suddenly there is nothing. My husband had died, I'm a widow, my children had married and gone away, so it's very important to have somebody coming into the house, somebody to talk to, and instead of sitting here looking at four walls and thinking, what am I going to do now?
I mean, on a completely practical level, it's been important for me as a way I can come to London and do my studies. But on the other things that I've got out of it that I wasn't necessarily expecting is, you know, I have a new friend, somewhere that I can feel safe and not isolated in a really big city.
I would just call you a friend. If anybody asked
Good
me,
friends.
yeah, I wouldn't say, oh, well, I'm her home sharer.
You cannot believe the difference that it makes. Just hearing somebody in the house, and to me now, to hear the key in the lock round about 6 o'clock at night is wonderful.
So thanks, Hayley. Lots of people asking for digital flyers. So I don't know if you've picked up all those, but if not, we'll pass them on to you after the webinar.
Lovely, thank you so much. Thank you.
I think I suppose it seems to be lots of interest. So if they get in touch with you, then they can kind of potentially sign up as a partner, or I suppose just do it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, so my role is typically I will jump on a Zoom call with anyone that's interested in our organisation and how they can partner with us. So I can, you know, answer the nitty-gritty questions about council tax and, you know, what if it's a council house, not a privately owned property. I can answer all of those questions. The short answer to all of those is we can do all of those things. It's all fine. So don't let that be a barrier. Yep. So yeah, please just drop a note in the chat box and drop me your email, and I'll gladly get in touch with you.
That's great. Thanks, Hayley.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a reminder that if you want to continue these conversations when we're not live on a webinar, then there is the DFG Champions Facebook group, now well over 1,000 members. And as I mentioned last month, there's a new feature where if you're an experienced practitioner, you can sign up to be a mentor. And if you're relatively new and could do some help and support, you can sign up to be a mentee and be paired with a mentor, and they'll give you some one-on-one support. So the address is www.facebook.com/group/DFG Champions. It's a private group, so you have to answer a couple of questions to get in. But after that, you can join all the conversations and hear all the latest news first.
And now it's time for the guest.
So I'll say on the hottest day of the year, or one of the hottest days of the year, really pleased to welcome Chris and Diane from National Energy Action. So I think you'll go first, Chris?
That's right, yep.
Okay, I will start up your presentation then, and I'll pass you control.
Thank you. I'm hoping that's going to have worked, but thank you very much, Paul. My name's Chris Ellis. As you can see from the slide, I'm NEA's Training and Assessment Manager. For those of you who may not be aware of who NEA is, I'll take you a little bit through a basic introduction about who we are and what we do. I will obviously tell you a little bit about our training offering, what we are currently offering and what we've done as a result of COVID-19. And then I'll hand over to my colleague Diane, who can explain a bit more about what's happening on the ground and the varying different offers that we have and what Diane can offer. And we'll hopefully answer any of the chats or questions that come up throughout the presentation. If you want to email me, by all means do that. If you're interested in any of the training, by all means just click onto our website. That's the best way to get further information about the individual courses that we offer. But NEA itself, essentially we are a national fuel poverty charity. So our vision is to have no one living in fuel poverty. As Paul alludes, it's a very warm, hot summer's day for once. But that soon and quickly changes into autumn and winter, and then obviously the fight begins around kind of the issues around cold homes and how do we heat our homes and how do we stay safe in our homes. So what does NEA do? We're an organisation of around about 70 strong people. We're based in Newcastle, but we have satellite offices around the UK. Our strategic aims are that of to look at how we can influence decision makers, politicians, and look at how we can increase a more strategic approach from government to eradicate the problems of fuel poverty through things like energy efficiency and putting pressure on decision makers to come up with things like the Green Homes Grant and such like. We also looked at develop and progress solutions. So we look at kind of practical responses and how to implement these in people's households to try and obviously reduce the impacts of fuel poverty and high energy bills and poor quality energy efficiency measures. And the final bit is a bit of the kind of where I'm from, which is to enhance energy efficiency and fuel poverty education and skills. And that's not just necessarily traditionally to people who are in the energy sector, but it's to people who actually touch upon householders, vulnerable people, to give people some idea about how to signpost people to help at the very least. So people like yourselves who work for HIAs, for local authorities, for housing associations, hopefully all our training, if you haven't come across it before, you would find it useful. As long as you work for a charity or a voluntary sector, then you'd be more than welcome to access some of our funded training. Our key functions are campaigning and policy, education and training. We look to innovate and evaluate, so we do lots of research and technical operations, and we look at inspiring, supporting and engaging and delivering in communities, and that's through partnerships with organisations, potentially even with Haley's organisation going forward. We look to work in partnership with all these organisations, including foundations themselves. And we also are involved with awarding grants and hopefully trying to build capacity within the energy sector. So that's NEA in a bit of a nutshell. If you want a little bit more information, by all means, visit our website. That'll have a much more comprehensive overview of what we actually do. So ourselves, for my role, I'm the Training and Assessment Manager, so I'm going to spend about 10 minutes just taking you through a little bit about what we offer, in terms of how it might be useful and kind of any new things that are coming on, which may kind of be of interest to yourself in your role. So what do we offer? We offer qualifications and awareness. We are an embedded organisation. We've been delivering training for over 30 years now. And one of the flagship qualifications is NG awareness, which a lot of people may well have done. And what that does, that gives you a very good grounding on how to give domestic energy efficiency advice. So when you're going in to speak to vulnerable clients or householders, you can have the basic idea of what you can do to help alleviate the varying problems. So, you know, Paul talked about shower curtains, but there's basic things around condensation, mold growth, all these kind of small householder problems, which when left untreated, exacerbates into a lot greater problems, such as health-related issues around kind of bronchitis and then educational attainment and all sorts of issues that go on to affect the householder. We look at kind of renewable technologies, courses around that. And we also look at a course and qualification on fuel debt, which is a huge issue in the sector currently, and no doubt due to COVID and people staying at home, it'll be a rising issue again. We have a supported digital learning program, so we've adapted our learning. We already had e-learning in place before COVID, but we've significantly ramped up our e-learning, and we're now looking to offer our webinar program across the UK, which we're currently doing right now. All of our courses are CPD accredited, or they come with a City and Guilds qualification. And we offer bespoke training and support commercial and non-commercial organisations, so we can design training to meet the needs of your organisation. Should you want something that doesn't quite fit into what we have in terms of our off-the-shelf products. We also go into the world of education, so we work from primary school up through to university level, introducing the issues around kind of energy and energy awareness and energy efficiency into that sector as well, which is a tricky sector to get into, but we do it in a very ad hoc way, but it's a very rewarding part of the job. What have we done as a result of COVID, or COVID-19, or the coronavirus? What we look to do is we look to actually expand our e-learning, as I said before, and we've also now created a webinar program. So what we've done is we've converted the face-to-face training that we offer, or used to offer, and created a webinar alternative, and that's now been up and running for about a month and a half, and is proving extremely popular. So I'm hoping that some of the courses that are funded, you guys will be able to take advantage of and get booked on. We also looked at bidding into City and Guilds to now allow our energy awareness course to be delivered via an e-assessment route. So it allows us for the first time ever to have a full geographical spread across the UK. So instead of having some poor person from the Highlands of Scotland having to travel 3 days on ferry and land and foot to get to Glasgow to do an assessment, we can now, through the magic of technology and Zoom, we can now assess people from their home, which is a huge step forward. And then perhaps not many positives to come out of this situation, but the innovation that's allowed us to kind of assess and train in a different format will stand us all in good stead, and allow a lot of kind of people who wouldn't necessarily be able to access our training due to geographical and financial reasons, a much greater opportunity to do so. So we actually designed and developed our webinar program round about the kind of late March, April time. And we have a selection of titles that now are being offered, Fuel Debt Advice in the Community being one, where we offer that as a course and a qualification. These are all funded to people who are in the voluntary sector or a charity, a local authority, housing association. And as long as you're likely to come across someone who would be in a fuel poor or vulnerable situation, then you're perfectly entitled to access free places on these particular courses. And we try to have a variety of kind of subjects, so ranging from fuel debt advice to introduction to vulnerability in the energy sector, so looking at what a vulnerable client looks like, but in the context of energy and paying for fuel and things like that. We have fuel poverty and health, so the impacts around that. All of these things will hopefully link in to the sort of things that you may well see when you're actually speaking or seeing your clients on a first-time basis or on a continual basis. We have small webinars looking at paying for fuel, and also coming into the winter time, we'll be releasing webinars around tackling the cold. So all kind of all webinars and information designed to hopefully support you as a sector to at least signpost people or recognise the issues around fuel poverty. What makes NEA's webinars a little bit different, we actually call them a bit more, they're more of a supported online learning. So we don't have mass webinars in terms of lots of people accessing learning. We restrict our numbers to 12. We have 2 NEA trainers delivering the webinar. So we have a lead trainer, and we also have a trainer that supports and also discusses in chat, the chat facility, answering questions, and it's a very interactive process. So we restrict the number of learners, which slightly shoots ourselves in the foot, but we pride ourselves on the quality of the webinar, and the kind of feedback we're getting already is really, really positive. So we we started in June, and we released our dates for the first set of webinars, and they were fully booked within the week, and we've now been adding extra dates as they continue to see strong demand. So my advice to you, if you're interested in any of our training, go on our website, have a look at what options are there. And we now have an online booking in place, so it couldn't be easier that you just click your course, your time, and then a booking form gets sent down to you. So hopefully it should be a fairly easy kind of process. We have supported e-learning and e-assessment, as I've said. We created a new learning management system to cater for the extra capacity and the extra courses that we're looking to build. We have the Energy Awareness course now, which used to be still is a face-to-face training offering, which obviously we can't do at the minute. That's now as an e-learning offering, and we're now just starting to release some funded places. So again, if you're interested in achieving the Energy Awareness qualification, but maybe found that the timescales didn't fit or the cost wasn't there, the opportunity is right now to get a funded place, and that's saving, if it's an online, saving about £450 to £500. Which is, a good qualification to have, especially when it's funded. We have started our assessments, and they're now working well with the usual fun and games around Zoom, but most of the time it's flying along nicely. Our fuel poverty and health and introduction to domestic energy efficiency are basically the e-learning equivalent of our face-to-face courses. So again, they're all in different kind of formats to suit you as a learner, depending on whether you want to do it as a webinar or you want to do it as an e-learning offering. All our learners are supported via email, telephone or webinar. So if you do have any extra questions when you're going through any year's learning process, there's always someone there to help or to advise or to kind of answer any particular queries that you have. So coming soon, we're constantly trying to work on new products going forward. And we're looking to kind of release some new products coming through. It was of interest with the poll that Paul did around who's actually on the call, and I noticed that there was quite a number of people who are in a technical role, which is great because we're about to release a technical based set of modules looking at kind of NEA's technical innovation program results, where NEA was funded to trial a lot of the technologies, both renewable, innovative technologies that boast a reduction in energy and reduction in people's fuel bills, and we put them through trials in fuel poor households and fuel poor contexts, and some really good information and research that came out of that and results that came out from that around what actually was really effective, how you interact with householders. So it's about kind of the technical approach to a lot of these technologies. This sort of training will hopefully help people maybe in your situation where you're making decisions about people's homes, whether someone should be getting a heat pump or whether it should be a biomass. This particular training is an actually informed bit of information that will hopefully guide you to making some correct decisions based on not only the performance of the actual technology, but also how the householder interacts and the evidence that we gathered to say, this is how the householder worked. These are the issues that weren't followed. This was why it was a bad idea. This is why it was a good idea. So again, that'll be released fairly soon, and I'm hoping that that'll be of particular interest to a lot of people. And we'll also be making that available as an e-learning product as soon as possible. With that, we also have tackling fuel poor homes through decarbonisation, which is looking at linking the climate change agenda, but understanding the issues around decarbonisation, carbon reduction, with an impact and the issue around domestic energy efficiency and the domestic householder, so not leaving the fuel poor behind in the climate change agenda. So hopefully that'll be of interest to some people as well. We're just about to release our Paying for Fuel webinar and a Smart Meters in Communities e-learning product, which will take you through the basics and the understanding of what smart meters are, what the impacts are in the communities, and a little bit more about how they work as well. So that's a bit of a kind of a whistle-stop tour, because obviously I don't want to steal Diane's kind of time or thunder. There is a lot of information on the website. Should you want to book on a training course, by all means, email NEA. Go on the website, and you'll be guided to the training section, where you can contact my colleague Lindsay Thompson or whoever it might be to be able to book onto these courses. If you have any particular questions about partnership working or anything like that, by all means, contact myself at that email address below. If there's any further kind of questions, I'll happily pick them up offline. Okay, thank you, Paul.
Great, thank you, Chris. So I think what you're saying is there's never been a better time to be trained in energy efficiency and fuel poverty.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. We're seeing a significant amount of people coming through and actually signing up to this training, like a lot. But what I'm actually conscious of, which is why I was so interested in coming on the course, to making sure we're training the organisations, that are aligned to to foundations as well, to make sure the right people are being trained in terms of people who are actually seeing people on the front line, and hopefully some of the people who have been on the training will have enjoyed it and can pass on those sort of comments to their colleagues.
Yeah, I think Angelina in the chat box has said she did the fuel poverty training last month, and it was very interesting and informative.
Oh, great. Thank you.
So,
and now it's time for the guest.
And follow up, the second part is Diane. And I'll give you control, Diane, and then...
I'm conscious of the time. How many minutes have I got?
15.
15? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'll get cracking. Hello, everybody. My name is Diane Bland. I'm a project development coordinator with NEA and have been for many years. A bit more about what we do later on in the slides. I just wanted to follow on from the training that Chris has just talked about, just to talk about the other services that we offer in terms of energy advice and benefits entitlement checks. But before I do that, I just wanted to highlight a few facts about why we do what we do in terms of fuel poverty. So, here we go. So, in terms of the facts, because this is quite a detailed infographic, I'm going to use my pointer. I hope that's not rude. So, in terms of fuel poverty, at the moment, the definition is that households who have fuel costs above the average and incomes below the poverty line after housing and fuel costs are deemed to be in fuel poverty at the moment. But the government are looking at this definition, and it may change very shortly. But just a few facts. Fuel poverty in 2018 showed that 1 in 10 people, 1 in 10 households in England are in fuel poverty. The figures are from 2018 because there's always a 2-year time lapse in between when the figures are put together and when we actually receive them. So in England alone, there are 2.4 million households in fuel poverty. And if we look at this side of the graph, over the last 8 years, you see that fuel poverty is teetered between the 10 and 12% of households in England over that time. So people living in fuel poverty are quite often prone to cold-related illness. Cold-related illness is exacerbated by cold, damp homes. So the figures again for 2018-19 showed that 23,200 excess winter deaths occurred during that time. Many of these are related to cold, damp homes. that's not just a terrible figure in terms of mortality, but the cost of treating cold-related illness is massive in terms of health, social care. And it is suggested that the cost of treating cold-related illness equals £27,000 per day for each health and wellbeing board in England. So you can see it is a massive burden in terms of health and social care. So where are the fuel poor? Well, throughout England, you'll know that we do have fuel poor in every area. I'm actually based in Yorkshire and Humber. We have particular fuel poverty issues because we're a very rural location, and you'll find that around the country. You'll see the Northwest has the highest number of people in fuel poverty, and it looks like they're down in the Southeast have the lowest number of people in fuel poverty. We know there are various reasons for fuel poverty and what causes it. Generally, it's three basic key factors: energy efficiency, energy prices, and income. In terms of energy efficiency, we have had lots of improvements in terms of making houses more energy efficient. The problem that we have is constantly trying to source funding to be able to do this. There is no central government initiative to tackle fuel poverty at the moment. There are various schemes, which I won't go into at the moment, but it's quite often difficult to find money to improve somebody's boiler or repair the boiler. In terms of energy prices, we know energy prices are really high at the moment, but the government has introduced a prepayment price cap. So this means that people on prepayment meters cannot be charged over a certain amount per tariff for their electricity and gas, which helps. There are also schemes like the warm home discount, which I'll talk about a bit later. And incomes. Many of the people in fuel poverty are on low incomes, but there have been some improvements since the introduction of the national living wage. So who are the fuel poverty? Well, those in fuel poverty, the highest percentage are actually those people that are single parents are in fuel poverty. They make up 90% of those in fuel poverty. You can see the graph there, you can read for yourself. Couples with children, multi-person households. Most people would imagine that people in most fuel poverty are couples over 60 or people over 60. I mean, there is a high number of those in fuel poverty, but they tend to suffer most with what we call the fuel poverty gap. So this is the depth of fuel poverty. So the fuel poverty gap is the average reduction in fuel bills needed to remove a household from fuel poverty. So this is quite an awful lot of money. So an elderly person's fuel bills would have to be reduced by nearly £400 to take them out of fuel poverty. So it is a massive issue. What tenure do people tend to be in terms of the fuel poor? You can see from this graph here, it splits up fuel poverty by tenure and energy efficiency band. You'll all know that our houses have an energy efficiency rating. And this shows us that for the owner-occupied sector, most people in band E and G, there are a lot of people in band E and G likely to be in fuel poverty, and in band B and D. So the majority of fuel poor households are owner occupied. So I think that's quite an interesting figure for people like yourselves who actually deal predominantly with home owners, owner occupiers, as far as I understand it. So really that was just a whistle-stop tour of why we are in the business that we're in of tackling fuel poverty. But then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what the solutions are and what NEA can offer. I understand that a lot of you will no doubt have referral networks already in terms of providing energy advice and measures, but there may be some of you out there that don't have that facility. Before I go any further, Paul, were you going to do a poll at all?
I can do, yeah. So this was just a poll to look at. Do you use any of your DFG funding locally for heating work? So the answers are no, yes if part of an application, or yes, it's one of the options within our housing assistance policy. So I'll launch the poll for you now. Okay, there we go. And there's the results.
Okay. So that's quite interesting. I would be interested to know why those that don't include energy efficiency, new boilers within their DFG funding, and why it isn't used for that in particular. So that would be something I would be interested in people getting in touch with me to speak over, and whether there's anything we could do to help encourage you to actually include heating systems within your DFG offering. Okay, so yeah, moving on. What does NEA offer in terms of solutions to fuel poverty? Well, we offer a service called Warm and Safe Homes, which is a free support service providing advice to householders and frontline workers. Like everybody, we've had to adapt to the current situation, and we did often do quite a lot of home visits, or we'd actually speak to people in small groups. At the moment, we do a lot of telephone and online advice giving. There's a long list there of the types of issues that we can help with. I won't go through them all, but if you feel any of your householders that you deal with might need that support, you can refer them to us via our website on a referral form, pass our details on, and we're happy to get in touch with whoever you send to us. So we'll ask questions about their finances, their house, their energy efficiency, everything you would imagine that we'd need to know to help them through issues around high energy bills, cold homes. So I did say earlier that I'm one of quite a number of project development coordinators. We have people like me in all regions. What we try and do is influence policy and practice where we can, but we also do offer the kinds of advice I've just mentioned. The service may also be able to, well, we do negotiate with energy suppliers quite often, but we can also, depending on funding, offer top-up vouchers for certain householders struggling to top up their gas and electricity prepayment meters, especially during the period of COVID when people have been in their homes a lot longer and using more energy. We can also access energy debt relief. Sometimes this is through trust funds, sometimes it's through funding that we have ourselves. And we can also access schemes providing energy efficiency measures and white goods. As well as talking to people about their energy efficiency, we also try and gather from them whether they need a benefit entitlement checks. We do have a dedicated benefits entitlement checks team, and they offer a free, confidential and supportive service, providing benefit entitlement checks, help with claims, completions, benefit reviews, signposting, referrals to other help. This is a service that NEA has recently started to provide, and it's proven to be extremely popular and reaps massive rewards for the householder. I hope you can see there on the blow-up of the leaflet the kinds of benefits claims that our benefits team can help with, but they also give advice on free prescriptions, travel costs to hospital, blue badges, and a variety of other issues. So it can range from a simple check to a full claims help and tactical advice. But they have seen a big change in the kinds of people being in touch. Students unsure about universal credit entitlements, people who've never had to rely on the benefit system, not knowing where to begin, furloughed workers. The DWP and local authorities are offering stopgaps and temporary arrangements designed to minimise disruption, and our team are doing their best to reduce hardship and avoid hardship. There are new complex benefits available, but our BEX team are specialists in that, so you know they can help householders in need of those in that kind of help. I mentioned earlier that we do offer awareness sessions, so these are light touch sessions, very different to the training that Chris was talking about. And generally we do this to households in smaller groups, usually face to face, but at the moment we're doing that via Zoom. They're quite popular, but you might imagine that a lot of the people that we deal with are not online and would struggle to work with Zoom. But we're doing our best to contact and keep in touch with as many vulnerable people as possible. So in terms of referrals for help and support, if you look at the heading Energy Advice, we have 2 numbers within NEA for the different types of advice. Whichever number you ring, we will ascertain whether it's energy advice or benefits advice you need. But the benefits team were conscious that if people who need benefits, if they don't get through to the line first or second time, they will give up. So we want to be there the first time they call. So those are the numbers that you need to call or need to send to your householders. Were you going to do a poll in terms of whether people might use this service or not?
I haven't got another one prepared, Diane.
You haven't?
No.
It's all right, no problem. So basically, thank you. That was quite a quick trot through that. If you would like to talk to myself or Chris, our details are there. Any questions I will answer after the session.
Great.
I could have a quick through. Okay. We can send digital leaflets, no problem at all. People telling me what it is they actually do in terms of providing energy advice. I think that's it for me.
Okay. Great, thank you, Diane. Perfectly on time, and thank you, Chris, as well. I'm sure you'll get lots of people in touch about the training and the advice services.
The DFG Surgery. Your questions answered.
So it's approaching 3:30, so I've just noticed in the Q&A box there's one question. So if anybody's got any other DFG related questions, if they want to type those in quickly. So the one question we got is, somebody's got an applicant for a private tenant. The works and design were originally agreed by the landlord, but have had to change the design significantly. Can we proceed without the landlord giving revised consent? I think you would be well advised to get the landlord's consent to save you any problems later down the line. If it's not going to be a problem, then the revised consent would come quite quickly, I would have thought. But if it's something that's a little bit more, shall we say, controversial, then I would go for revised consent, even if they're ignoring you. I think it would be quite risky to proceed without having it. So if nobody else has got any other questions for today, thank you all for coming, and thank you to our speakers from Altro, from Two Generations, and from the NEA. the presentation will be, or the kind of webinar, the recording of it will be available later in the week. And it's also available on the Facebook group almost directly afterwards. So if you want to review it on the Facebook group, you're very welcome to do it there. Otherwise, it'll be on our YouTube channel and on the Foundation's website by the end of the week. For those of you who enjoy the webinars, we've got a special coming up in 2 weeks' time when Rachel Russell from Salford University and the Royal College of OTs will be talking about outcome measures for DFGs. Now, some of you will have done the training course that she did, it's probably last year now. So there's a full webinar on outcome measures for DFG and how they can work, with a kind of particular focus on occupational therapy. So, and then in September, or maybe October, depending on 1 or 2 other things, we've got something a little bit more special lined up. So keep an eye out on the DFG Champions group and keep checking your Foundation's emails, keep checking the Foundation's website, and some exciting news coming up very soon. So thank you all. I'll leave the chat box open for a few minutes in case you want to get in touch with anybody. But other than that, I'll see you back here, same time, same place, 2 weeks' time for the Outcome Measures webinar with Rachel.